If I'd known a missing scrap of cotton could rewrite the rules between us, I might have poured myself a nightcap at home and called it good. But there I was, Friday dusk, neon sign buzzing over the dusty Fox bar, hoping for a quiet drink, with the one person who could make the whole week feel lighter. I'm a graphic designer by day, professional overthinker by night, all screens and solitude, until my best friend Marcus texts me, leaving the studio meet for a pint. He's a woodworker downtown, always dusted with cedar shavings and grins that look carved, not learned. We've carved out this ritual, closing our separate shops at 7, sliding into the same cracked leather booth like it's reserved for us and nobody else can see the white-hot static that crackles in the inch of space between our knees. Tonight, though routine feels off, I spent the afternoon wrestling a brand reveal deadline, ripped my jeans when I finally stood, and changed in a rush. I only notice what I forgot when I step off my bike. The breeze through the rip in my pocket is unfiltered, commando. The bar's 5 minutes away and Marcus is already waiting. His text bubble grays into typing, then disappears. I pedal faster, cheeks heating long before I step inside. He spots me instantly, elbows on varnished pine, eyes reflecting the amber lights. "You look wired," he laughs, sliding a cold glass across, his voice smooth. Law always sinks into my skin like warm wax. I toss back a gulp, willing the fizz to drown my nerves. "Long day," I mumble, pushing stray hair behind my ear. He notices everything. I notice him noticing. The tip of his tongue sits at the corner of his mouth when he studies me. Tonight, it's there, and my pulse trips. We talk like we always do, movie quotes, half-baked dreams. He teases me for color-coding my life. I tease him for naming every handplane in his shop like they're pets. But as he leans in to rib me about my playlists, another synthwave mix, really, his knee brushes mine under the table. A tiny electric flick, gone in a blink, yet the booth feels 10 degrees warmer. I shift, the denim tugging too freely, a phantom reminder of what's missing. The secret presses against every thought, one wrong angle and he'll notice. I grip my glass tighter. Outside the front windows, the street glows with string lights left up from summer festivals, flickering like distant campfires. They remind me of a night last August when Marcus and I fell asleep under lanterns on his roof after sanding a mahogany tabletop till dawn. He'd woken first, blanket half slipped and chill creeping in, and tucked the edge around my shoulders. I pretended to sleep just to memorize the way his fingers hesitated, featherlight against the back of my neck. I've replayed that hush 100 times, always stopping before the part where I imagine turning toward him. A group of college kids bursts through the door, laughter spilling across the bar. Marcus raises his brow, crowd's thick tonight, and scoots closer to hear me over the noise. His thigh presses mine steadily. This time, neither of us moves away. The music shifts to a slow, bass-heavy track, and the way he's looking at me, I swear he can read every confession I've never spoken. I drain the last of my drink. "Think I'll hit the restroom," I say, voice pitched higher than intended. He flashes that carved grin. "I'll order another round." As I walk, the absence of fabric feels like a live wire teasing every nerve down my spine. My reflection in the hallway mirror meets my own wide-eyed stare. Seriously, forgetting underwear might be the most impulsive thing I've done all year. Marcus is 20 feet away, warm and familiar, yet suddenly brand new territory. My heart rams. Maybe tonight isn't about a quiet drink at all. Maybe it's the moment where ritual tilts into something riskier, where one slip, one truth, could unspool the bright, hidden thread that's tethered us all this time. I press my palms to the cool porcelain sink and breathe once, twice, steadying the tremor inside. When I walk back out, I'm still missing that thin strip of cotton, but I might finally be brave enough to stop hiding the rest of myself. Marcus and I met 3 years ago in the least poetic way possible, arguing over the last maple-glazed donut at a farmer's market. He was stubborn and loud. I was sleep-deprived and probably rude. But somehow, that dumb pastry turned into coffee, which turned into lunch, which turned into a standing Saturday ritual where he'd fix things in my apartment that didn't need fixing, and I'd pretend I didn't plan entire grocery lists just to bump into him. He's the kind of guy who makes silence feel like a conversation. I'm the type who over-explains everything, including how to load a dishwasher. We balance each other. He grounds me when I'm spiraling over deadlines. I pull him out of his routine when he starts living too much in his woodshop. Our friendship formed like driftwood, slow, shaped by time, reliable. There's a shorthand between us now. He taps twice on my elbow when he wants me to look up from my screen. I always order his burger medium rare without asking. He calls me Velcro when I get too attached to an idea or a song or a mood, and I roll my eyes and call him Sawdust Jesus when he walks into my apartment covered in wood shavings, shirt slightly damp, smelling like cedar and motor oil. But lately, things have been shifting in ways we don't talk about. Like the night he helped me hang floating shelves in my bedroom and accidentally brushed my hip while measuring the wall. He didn't pull back, not right away, and I didn't move either. We both stood there, quiet, staring at the level in his hands like it held some secret answer. Or last month, when his ex called and he looked at his phone, then at me, and let it ring out, said, "I don't want anything that doesn't feel real anymore." I didn't ask what that meant, but I felt it for days. We've never defined what we are, just close, closer than most. Enough that people assume we're a couple when we show up places together. He always laughs it off. I pretend not to read too much into the flush in his cheeks when someone calls me his boyfriend by mistake. Last summer, we took a weekend trip to the lakeside cabin his uncle left him in Vermont. It was supposed to be just a break, unplugged, quiet, maybe some kayaking. But the first night, he realized he'd forgotten one of the sleeping bags. There was only one bed. I remember standing in that tiny knotty pine room, staring at it like it was a test. "I can take the floor," he offered, already kicking off. His boots, I laughed, trying to sound normal. "You've got 6 inches on me and a bad back. No way, we'll just keep to our sides." "Fine, but no spooning unless it's for survival," he joked, tossing his hoodie on a chair. We lay back to back the first night, awkwardly stiff. But by morning, I woke to find he'd rolled toward me, one arm slung loosely across my middle like it had always belonged there. I didn't move. I just listened to him breathe until the sun lit the floorboards and I could pretend I hadn't memorized the shape of his hand on my stomach. We never talked about that weekend. Back in the city, we fell into old rhythms, easy warm, almost too easy. But those small moments kept happening when we brushed fingers passing the remote. When he leaned over my shoulder to point at a design, and I forgot how to breathe. When he laughed at something I said and looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. And now, here we are, at the dusty Fox bar, the worn leather booth, the old jukebox, the smell of spiced rum and cheap perfume in the air. It's just another Friday, but it's also not. Something has shifted. The weight of his knee against mine isn't casual anymore. The silence between his jokes is fuller, heavier, like he's waiting for me to say something that neither of us is brave enough to start. "I still can't believe you don't own socks," I tease, nudging his shin. He grins. "Socks are a scam. Let your feet breathe. Tell that to everyone who's smelled your shoes. Oh please, your apartment smells like candle trauma, lavender, mint, forest fire, or whatever." I laugh, but it catches in my throat when he tilts his head, watching me just a beat too long. "You've got something right there," he says softly, and lifts his hand toward my face. It's nothing, just a crumb from the peanuts. But his fingers brush my jaw, slow, not rushed, not like a friend. I freeze. He notices, drops his hand fast. "Sorry, no, I want to say something real, but I can't find the words, not yet." There's a heat in my chest I can't name, a flickering wish that maybe he feels it too. Maybe he's been feeling it this whole time, just like I have. Maybe the mist, sleeping bag, the breakfasts, the long nights talking about nothing, weren't just friendship. Maybe I've been so afraid to ruin what we have, I never let it become what it could be. Marcus glances away, sips his beer, his foot nudges mine under the table, like a secret only I'm supposed to notice. And I do. God, I do. For once, the dusty Fox is so packed the jukebox can't drown the chatter. Glasses clink, shoulders bump, and the servers keep weaving trays between hips like dancers at rush hour. Marcus and I squirrel our way toward the bar to settle the tab. But 3 steps in, a towering guy in a varsity jacket jerks backward, sloshing beer all over Marcus's shirt. "Watch it, man," the guy growls. Marcus lifts his palms, all calm. No harm done. He means it's, except his flannel is drenched, translucent across his chest. I feel a bolt of something hot and helpless, part annoyance for him, part awareness of the muscles the wet fabric now sketches in sharp relief. I shrug out of my own jacket, meaning to drape it over his shoulders. But the crowd shifts again, pushing us toward the narrow hallway that leads to the back exit. "Let's hit the alley door," Marcus says. "Wash up at my shop. It's closer than your place." I nod, grateful for the escape, and follow. The corridor is barely wide, enough for 2. When someone barrels by, Marcus presses me against the wall to keep me from getting jostled. palms blade over my abdomen in a way that makes every nerve lean toward his fingers. He doesn't notice that, at least not openly, but he keeps his hand there until the stranger passes. Then he clears his throat and steps back, eyes darting too quickly to mine. Outside, the night air hums with city buzz and the faint scent of garlic from the late-night food trucks. Marcus's studio is only 4 blocks away, a converted carriage house behind a shuttered antique store. We jog across a crosswalk, and he hooks 2 fingers through my belt loop, tugging me safely to the curb when a cab zooms by too close. The casual intimacy so unconscious for him sends a tremor through me. He's always touched me in these small ways, and I've always filed them under friendship. Tonight they feel like something else, something more exposed than the skin under my jeans. His shop's side door sticks. He shoulders it open, motioning me in. The scent inside hits like nostalgia, sawdust, linseed oil, metal shavings. A single overhead bulb casts golden cones over work tables cluttered with chisels and half-finished cabinetry. Bathrooms through there, he says, peeling off his wet shirt in one swift motion that leaves him in a white-ribbed tank. Droplets gleam on his collarbones. My mouth goes dry. Toss me a towel, will you? I fumble for one on a shelf, careful to keep my eyes north of his waist. But when I turn, he's already at the utility sink, tank top yanked over his head, so the muscles of his back flex and settle like wings folding. I force a swallow and hand him the towel, trying to sound normal. Here, thanks. He scrubs at his hair, grin crooked. Who knew beer could be so personal? I laughed loudly, then duck into the bathroom to splash water on my face. The mirror reflects my flushed cheeks and eyes bright with something I don't want to name. I stare myself down, tell him you're swimming in feelings too big to hide. But a lifetime of careful friendship warns me. One confession could turn all this ease into awkward wreckage. I step back into the shop to find Marcus rummaging for another shirt. He eyes a navy hoodie on a high shelf, then looks at me. Little help. I climb onto a stool to grab it. The stool wobbles and I pitch forward. Marcus's arms snap around my waist, pulling me close. My palms end up braced on his bare shoulders, warm, solid. For an eternal half-second, we're chest to chest, his breath mingling with mine. You okay? He murmurs, voice huskier than usual. Yeah, clumsy, I laugh, but the sound's brittle. He sets me upright, though his hands linger at my sides. You're shaking, just adrenaline. And other things. Say it, I scream at myself, but the words stay buried. The hoodie's a size too small for him. When he pulls it on, the hem rides up just enough to reveal the sharp V of his hips. I force my gaze away, studying a cherrywood sideboard instead. I need a new shirt too. Mine's sticky, I manage. He rifles through a storage bin and tosses me one of his faded T-soft oversized charcoal gray. I peel off my own, turning discreetly, though the thought of him seeing the pale expanse of my back sets my nerves on fire. When I face him again, his gaze flicks upward so fast I can't be sure where it lingered. Looks better on you, he says, half smile lopsided. He gestures toward the small breakroom loft above the shop floor. There's coffee upstairs. You game? I nod, following him up the creaky wooden ladder. The loft is more nook than room. Low ceiling, threadbare couch, tiny kitchenette, 2 enamel mugs wait on a shelf. Marcus lights the kettle and turns, leaning back against the counter, arms folded. Crazy night, he says. Sorry about beer guy, not your fault. I hover near the couch, acutely aware of the cramped space. If I sit, he'll sit. We'll be closer than the booth, closer than the cabin bed. My pulse drums at the idea. The kettle whistles. He pours hot water over instant coffee granules, then hands me a mug. Our fingers brush, and neither of us blinks away. His thumb grazes my knuckle, a tiny, absent-minded stroke that feels anything but absent-minded. I hold the mug like a lifeline. He sinks onto the couch, patting the cushion beside him. Come on, your feet must hurt. Those shoes are barely shoes. I sit, hip to hip. The couch springs sag, tipping our shoulders together. He chuckles. Remind me to reinforce this thing. Add it to the list you never let me pay you for. I tease, nudging him. He nudges back. Your friendship's worth overtime. His voice softens on the last word, like he's already said too much. Steam curls between us, carrying the faint scent of cinnamon from his soap. My heart thrums. Confess, confess. Instead, I stall. Remember Vermont. The question slips before I can evaluate the risk. His smile is slow, nostalgic, hard to forget. You snore like a chainsaw. I do not. You kinda do. But I liked it. Meant you were alive. His expression turns shy, unexpected on a face I know so well. Silence stretches, not awkward, but brimming. He sets his mug down, then rests his arm along the couch back, fingers just inches from my neck. Heat radiates between us. I feel his gaze, but when I turn, he's looking at my knee tucked against his thigh. So, he begins, voice barely above the creak of the loft fan, "Tell me something honest." The words land like a challenge. My throat tightens. Honest is dangerous. Honest is admitting I've replayed his arm on my stomach 100 mornings since Vermont. That the absence of underwear tonight feels symbolic, like I'm stripped of every excuse not to feel what I feel. That I want to touch him, right now, more than I've ever wanted anything. I take a breath that quivers. Honest. My voice sounds different. Either light overhead flickers, cutting my confession at the root. Electricity blips and dies, plunging us into darkness, broken only by the glow of the street lamp through a dusty skylight. The sudden hush throbs between us. Marcus's hand finds mine in the dark, firm and protective. "Hold on," he whispers. "Fuse box is downstairs." But the ladder, my fingers tighten reflexively. "Stay. It's fine." Truth is, I don't want the lights back yet. The shadows feel like permission. His thumb strokes circles over my wrist, slow and steady. "You sure?" he asks, but he doesn't let go. "Yes." The word trembles with double meaning. I turn slightly, guided only by the silhouette of him. Our knees knock. I sense, more than see, his breath hitch. Somewhere below, machinery ticks as it cools. Up here, the air is thick with unspoken things. Marcus's hand, still cradling mine, shifts his fingers threading with mine as naturally as inhaling. I feel his pulse, a rapid mirror of my own. My chest swells with everything I haven't said. We are suspended, hidden from the city, pressed together in a pocket of velvet darkness that feels carved out just for us. If I speak now, maybe the words won't ruin anything. Maybe they'll set everything right. I open my mouth, ready to leap, and footsteps clatter at the shop door downstairs. A muffled voice. "Anybody still in here?" It's the night security guard, making rounds. Marcus squeezes my hand once, then gently releases it. "Up here," he calls back, voice even, though I can hear the thrum beneath it. The spell thins, but the imprint of his fingers remains, scorching my skin. In the dark, with coffee cooling between us, I realize I'm no longer afraid of what honesty might change. I'm terrified of what staying silent might cost. The guard's footsteps retreat down the stairs, then fade into the street hum outside. My lungs unlock, and I realize I've been holding Marcus's hoodie sleeve in a white-knuckled grip. He notices, offering a quick smile, but neither of us shifts away. The loft stays dusky. Security lights through the skylight paint us in silver and shadow, like a half-finished charcoal sketch waiting for decisive strokes. He reaches for the fuse box switch next to the ladder, hesitates, and drops his hand. "Power'll come back on its own," he murmurs. The air between us vibrates with everything left unsaid a minute ago. His earlier challenge, "Tell me something," honestly is like a live wire on the floor, daring me to step across. Marcus rubs the back of his neck, gaze darting to my lips, to the empty mugs, to anywhere but my eyes. "So, what were you about to say before the lights went out?" My throat tightens. The truth is monumental, but naming it might feel as simple as describing a color once you finally see it. I swallow. That weekend in Vermont, the words taste electric. I've replayed it every morning since he stills. Replayed what part? His voice is soft, sanded down to raw grain. "Waking up with your arm around me," I whisper. "I pretended to be asleep so you wouldn't move. That scared me how much I wanted you to stay." There, the first confession slips free, trembling but intact. Marcus exhales, eyes closing like he's absorbing the impact. When he speaks, the laugh in his tone is shaky. "I thought you'd push me off the bed if you woke up." He glances up, cheeks flushed. "I spent an hour rehearsing an apology for invading your space." "You didn't," I answer fast. "Invade, I mean. It felt right." The last word hovers, daring either of us to claim it. Silence sprawls. My pulse thunders. Every breath a countdown to either flight or freedom. I force myself to keep talking, afraid momentum will collapse if I don't. Ever since then, I can't stop noticing the small things. How you remember my coffee order without asking. How you catch me when I trip. How you always find an excuse to touch my shoulder when you laugh. I told myself it was you just being you. And maybe it is. But my voice dips into confession's marrow. It matters to me. More than it should if we're just friends. Marcus looks like he's standing on the edge of a cliff, dizzy with possibility. He takes a slow step closer, his socked feet rustling with dust. What if it's more than me being me? What if I do those things because they're excuses to touch you? He clears his throat. I've kind of wanted to for a while. Heat floods my face. I want to close the distance, but fear still loops like wire around my ribs. Then why didn't you? The question leaves before I can soften it. I kept thinking it must be in my head. He flinches at the edge of a rueful smile. Because you're my best friend, and I'm a coward sometimes. I thought if I messed up, if I guessed wrong, I'd lose the one person who never treats me like I'm just good with wood and tools. His gaze flicks up, earnest and exposed. You make me feel seen, not just useful. His confession lands warm and heavy in my chest. It knits with mine, a mirrored vulnerability that makes it suddenly impossible to stand still. I step forward until we share the same narrow square of floor. The air between us is thinner than a breath, so we're both cowards, I say quietly. But maybe bravery is overrated. I'm tired of wondering what would happen if I leaned in. Marcus's exhale shudders out. His eyes dip to my mouth, then hold. Can I? His voice fractures on the question. I don't wait. My fingers cup his jaw, the stubble rasping delicately against my palm. He leans into the touch like it's gravity. I feel his pulse hammering beneath skin as soft as sawdust-worn cedar. Tell me to stop, I murmur, and I will. But the tremor in my hands says I want nothing less than to keep going. Instead of words, Marcus brings his hand to the small of my back, guiding me closer until our torsos align, hoodie, cotton against faded tee. The first kiss is a brush featherlight, exploratory. A question asked in a language neither of us has spoken aloud, but both seem born fluent in. I answer by slowing, pressing in again, letting my lips linger so he knows this is no accident. His fingers slide beneath the hem of my borrowed shirt, settling warm against my waist. A gasp stutters out of me, swallowed by the next kiss deeper now, anchoring us both. I taste coffee, wood smoke, and relief so profound it makes my knees unsteady. Marcus steadies me, palms expanding across my back like wings. The loft fan hums overhead, the only witness to a moment that feels too tender for neon light. When our lips finally part, our foreheads rest together, shared breaths mingling. Outside, a siren wails down the avenue, distant, inconsequential. Marcus strokes the back of my neck, voice low. I'm trying not to rush, but it's hard to believe this is real. It's real, I whisper, brushing my nose against his. Been real for longer than either of us admitted. His smile curves slow and stunned. Then a flicker of worry shadows his eyes. What if this changes everything? Your routine, the booth, the Saturday donuts, what if it gets weird? It will, I agree, thumb tracing his cheek. But weird isn't always bad, and I'd rather face weird together than pretend we're not standing exactly here, feeling exactly this. My own fear rides the edges of certainty, but honesty feels lighter than silence ever did. He huffs a soft laugh, tension easing. You always overanalyze, even mid-makeout. I grin. You love that about me. His gaze softens, that affectionate, half smirk I know so well yielding to something wholly new and masked adoration. Yeah, he says, voice breaking on the simplicity of it. I do. He kisses me again, surer now, hands framing my face as if memorizing bone and heat. I melt into him, the loft spinning slow. When we break apart, I slip my fingers through his interlocking curtain. Somewhere downstairs, the Soar's auto-cool cycle clicks on, flooding the shop with lights as power returns. Brightness spills up through the ladder rungs, illuminating us. For a beat, embarrassment flashes. I'm wearing his baggy shirt. He's in a hoodie slightly too small. Our lips are pink and swollen, but the look we share swallows the self-consciousness whole. Guess the world can see us now, Marcus says. It saw us before, I answer, squeezing his hand. We're just catching up. He bites his lip, searching my face. Stay tonight. Extra blankets upstairs. And no, he flicks my waistband, knowingly, no judgment about your laundry accident. I laugh, color climbing my ears. I might have skipped a step getting dressed, but if I'm staying, I get first shower. Deal, deal, deal. He leans in, kisses my temples so casual, so intimate it steals my breath more than any deep kiss. I'll change the couch springs tomorrow, we'll need them. Heat rushes up my neck at the implication. He chuckles, bumping shoulders with me. Playful banter slides effortlessly into this new terrain, familiar yet altered like the same melody. Before he heads to fetch towels, he pauses. One more honest thing. His brow creases, vulnerability raw. I'm scared of messing this up. Me too, I admit, tugging him close. But we've fixed worse furniture. I point at the wobbly stool still standing lopsided near the shelf. We patch, sand, and reinforce until it's stronger. We can do the same with us. His exhale is half laugh, half sob. He kisses me quick, lips to lips, then a second time to my cheek, soft as a promise. Okay, he says. Then this is us. No more pretending. He heads down the ladder to grab the blankets, leaving me staring after him with a grin splitting my face. I trail fingers over my tingling lips before pressing a hand to my racing heart. It slows not from fear now, but from the surety of being chosen. Tonight a missing scrap of cotton didn't just rewrite the rules, it tore them up, handed us blank paper, and said, build something new. And in the glow of Marcus's shop and the glow of his return up the ladder with blankets slung over one shoulder, I know exactly who I want to draft that blueprint with. Marcus reappears with 2 wool blankets and a triumphant grin, balancing a tray of bottled seltzers on his forearm like a bartender who knows the stakes have changed. We're still in the glow of the shop lights, but it feels like dawn after a long blackout, everything sharp, new, and a little unreal. Hydration, he declares. My grandmother swore by bubbly water after life-altering kisses. Smart woman, I say, and he raises an eyebrow. You calling my technique life-altering already? Statistically significant at the very least, I deadpan. He laughs full and easy and I feel the sound in my sternum. We spread the blankets on the sagging couch, and when we sit, our knees meet without the usual polite retreat. The unspoken permission in that simple press of bone is electric. For a moment we just study each other, wide-eyed, as if confirming we haven't hallucinated the last half hour. He's still flushed. I'm still borrowing his shirt. My pulse has calmed from sprint to jog, but every time his thumb strokes mine, the pace ticks up again. I keep thinking I should pinch myself, Marcus admits. Don't, I warn. I bruise easily by proxy. He chuckles and tips a seltzer toward my lips. I sip. Carbonation pops on my tongue. He watches like it's the most fascinating thing he's ever seen. So, next steps, he says, voice softer. Tomorrow's Saturday, booth day. Do we still go for the donut? I lean back, pretending to mull it over. Yes, except this time we split the maple glazed on purpose, so the universe doesn't have to stage another meet-cute disaster. And afterwards, he asks, brushing a lock of hair off my forehead with a gentleness that makes my chest ache. I've got lumber to pick up. You could come help me argue with the supplier about moisture content. Romantic, I tease, then I sober, threading our fingers. Honestly, I want our usual date, just adjusted, same routines, minus the pretending. He nods, shoulders sinking in relief. I like that. Familiar with upgrades. A comfortable, quiet settles, our legs tangle, test fitting like dovetail joints. I run my palm along his forearm, mapping freckles I've seen 1,000 times but never touched this deliberately. He shivers. Too much, I ask. Never, he whispers, turning his hand so our fingers lace tighter. It's just wild how normal this feels, like I'm remembering instead of discovering. I know exactly what he means. I rest my temple on his shoulder. He kisses the top of my head. The room seems to tilt, the couch groaning happily under our combined weight. We should talk about challenges, I murmur into the fabric of his hoodie. Deadlines, X-Tex, my tendency to catastrophize, he snorts, and my tendency to avoid feelings like they're splinters. He tilts my chin up so I meet his gaze. We'll trip, but we'll sand the edges. Deal, deal. I tap his chest right over his heart. Real woodworkers fix their mistakes. Graphic designers just hide layers, he counters. Hey, he grins, then grows thoughtful. There's one more thing. I don't want to rush physical stuff just because we've waited this long. Tonight, I just want this. He squeezes our joined hands. He blooms in my cheeks, equal parts warmth and respect. Same. I'd rather savor the upgrade than speedrun it. He expels a breath. Content. Good though. I reserve the right to kiss you whenever my brain short-circuits. Hazard accepted. To prove it, I tilt up and press a soft kiss to the corner of his mouth, just enough to feel the curve of his smile. The shop quiets. Even the distant traffic seems muffled. With the new stillness comes a gentle fatigue. Marcus tucks the second blanket around us both, arms slipping behind my shoulders. I curl into his side, inhaling sawdust, soap, and a hint of hops from the earlier beer. His thumb draws lazy circles on my sleeve. I keep thinking of that old Japanese method, he says suddenly. Kintsugi, he nods. When pottery cracks, you mend it with gold. The break becomes part of the art. I swallow the lump in my throat. You think we were cracked, not broken, just waiting to be gilded. He glances down, eyes shining tonight, feels like the first brush stroke. I smile against his collarbone, so full of something luminous, it almost hurts. Then let's fill every fracture with gold, even the tiny ones. We drift into comfortable chatter weekend errands. A friend's upcoming wedding plus ones are sorted now, he quips. The logistics of toothbrush storage middle shelf, equal territory, I decree. Each mundane topic glows burnished by the knowledge that we is no longer hypothetical. Minutes or hours later, my eyelids droop. Marcus notices, eases me down so my head rests in his lap. He strokes my hair while humming a tune I recognize from his shop playlist. Low and steady. Sleep, he murmurs. I'll wake you when the sun hits the skylight. I peel one eye open. Promise. Cross my heart. He traces an X over his chest, then bends to kiss me, slow and sure. When he pulls back, our foreheads meet. I used to think happiness was finding quiet for myself, I whisper, fingers brushing his jaw. Turns out it's finding quiet with you. He answers without words, just a tender press of lips to my hairline and a contented sigh that vibrates through both our bodies, cradled in warmth and brand new certainty. I close my eyes. Tomorrow the world will ask its usual questions, but tonight, every answer begins here, where a missing pair of underwear led me home. You drool when you're content, he murmurs, voice husky with sleep. I swipe my mouth, scandalized. Evidence or it didn't happen. He lifts his phone, shows a blurry selfie of us half asleep. My hair a halo of chaos, a glimmer of drool at the corner of my lips. He looks annoyingly gorgeous. Blackmail material, he teases. Delete that and I'll buy the donuts. Tempting offer. He thumbs the picture once, hovers, then surprises me by tapping favorite instead of trash. Some moments are worth keeping messy. We dressy in a clean flannel, me in my clothes from last night, now fortified with underwear I found in my backpack. Thank every deity for emergency gym kits. Before we head down the ladder, Marcus pauses beside the workbench and rummages in a drawer. He turns, holding a gleaming brass key on a strip of cedar-polished leather. Shop spare, he says, suddenly shy. Figured you might need Itiano if you ever want coffee, or quiet, or me. The last word lands softer than sawdust. My chest floods with warmth. I loop the leather onto my keyring right beside the tiny graphite pencil he carved for me last Christmas. Looks like you're stuck with me, I say, giving the keys a jingle that sounds suspiciously like home. We step out into Saturday morning crisp air, sun painting the storefront awnings gold. Side by side we wheel our bikes toward the farmer's market. The crowd is light this early, mostly vendors setting up the maple glazed donuts still cooling on wire racks. History lesson, Marcus announces, flagging down the same elderly baker who once refereed our first donut debate. We'll take one, split down the middle. The baker's eyes crinkle. Dating now. About time, boys. She hands over the pastry, warm and fragrant, and we each break off half. Sugar flecks dust his beard. I brush them away without thinking, thumb lingering an extra beat on his lip. His answering grin feels like a sunrise aimed only at me. We claim our usual booth-cracked leather, a faint smell of cinnamon. This time we sit on the same side, shoulders touching, knees comfortably tangled. Conversation flows weekend plans. A friend's game night next Friday, plus one's now mandatory, he states, and the practicalities of merging Spotify playlists without bloodshed. Beneath the banter, a steady undercurrent hums. We chose this, and we're choosing it again, minute by minute. When the donuts reduce to crumbs, Marcus reaches into his pocket and passes over a folded strip of sandpaper. Souvenir, he says. I laugh, flipping it to reveal scrawled words in pencil. Fix it together. Our first slogan. Our first promise, he corrects, threading his fingers through mine on the tabletop. For when deadlines crush you or I get lost in sawdust, we pause, we talk, we fix. The simplicity of it anchors deep. I squeeze his hand, pulse skating beneath skin. Deal. And when I spiral over color palettes, you remind me that some cracks deserve gold. He nods, the memory of last night's kintsugi metaphor shining in his eyes. Golden cracks and maple donuts our brand. A comfortable silence descends, filled with the sounds of the market, waking vendors, calling prices. A busker tuning his guitar. I glance around, half expecting strangers to stare at our linked hands, but no one pays us any mind. The world remained intact while we rearranged its center. You realize, I say, voice low, this is just the prologue. Someday you might have to survive my parents' interrogations, and I'll have to pretend I enjoy outdoor music festivals for you. Marcus winces comically. You'll wear noise-canceling earplugs. I'll charm your mum with homemade cutting boards. Tribulations managed, and what about the tough stuff? I press. Days when coffee tastes like ash and one of us wants to quit everything. He turns serious, thumb stroking circles on the back of my hand. Then we sit in the shop loft, kill the lights, and listen. We won't always get it right, but we won't walk out on the conversation. The certainty in his tone roots me. I lean in, brushing my lips against his soft, lingering, a punctuation mark on the promise we've drafted. When we part, I rest, my forehead to his, letting our shared breath hang in the inch between us. One more donut, he whispers. Always. We stand, shoulders bumping, and walk toward the bakery counter, sun on our backs, keys jangling together in my pocket. Ahead lie deadlines and sawdust, color swatches and cracked furniture, mornings where doubt will get loud, and nights where the loft fan sings us to sleep. But between his warm palm and the gold-flecked sandpaper tucked into my wallet, I carry proof that every fracture can be mended, and every blank page can start again. Today we share donuts. Tomorrow maybe closets, playlists, an address line. Whatever shape the future takes, we'll carve it side by side, filling the seams with laughter, with honesty, with gold. And each time I unlock that studio door with my new brass key, remember how a missing scrap of cotton led me not to embarrassment, but to the place I've been designing in my heart all along, etched in maple glaze and quiet courage called us.